Hi besties, welcome back to my channel, Books and Looks. Today we are going to be talking about books with really interesting premises. Books that you would read and make you think, oh, like I never thought that that could be a book. The reason why I want to show you these is because I read a lot of romance books. And so a lot of times it can get a little monotonous because you have people who are trying to kind of reinvent the wheel a lot with specific tropes like sports romance. You have friends to lovers, you have rivals to lovers, you have enemies to lovers. At times it can just get a little monotonous. These are all books that I've read, that I've loved, that are different, and I've had just a fun time reading. So let's get into it. First book is going to be Check and Mate by Ali Hazelwood. Now this is going to be our new age YA book of the video. I don't read a lot of YA and new age romances, but I absolutely love this one. This is one of my favorite Ali books. She absolutely killed it. So if you read The Queen's Gambit and you were like, oh my god, I want to read that in a book, right here. Right here. It's so cutie. I screamed so much. I actually listened to the audiobook for this one. I died. It was adorable. So much joy. Basically, it's about Mallory and Nolan. Mallory was a chess prodigy, and then she had things that happened with her family, so she ended up quitting and stopping. Nolan is like the chess god in the story, and basically they end up pitted against each other in a charity match. She beats him, which is insane because, again, she hasn't played chess in years and it's a wild time. And of course, like any other Ali Hazelwood book, he's obsessed with her, which we love. But the thing about this one, it's so cute. It's just joy and the banter's great. And I seriously just had such a lovely time reading this one. Now we're going to get into our fantasy section. Now, listen. I don't read too much romantasy because honestly, it stresses me out and it makes me anxious. So these are some great choices for you if you're wanting to branch into romantasy, if you're wanting something diverse, if you're wanting something on the shorter end, and maybe you want a little monster moment. These are the books for you. If we're gonna talk about books with very interesting and fun and different premises, we have to talk about Kimberly Lemming. Kimberly Lemming is amazing. She was originally indie published and Berkeley picked up some of her books earlier last year. This is my first experience reading Kimberly's books, and this is That Time I Got Drunk and Saved a Demon. Not only are these books so much fun, but the titles are also insane and I love them. Honestly, this I believe is about like 250-ish pages. I did the audiobook for this and it was really, really fun. It's not too much world building where you feel like you're overwhelmed and you're gonna lose sight of the plot or the characters. It keeps you engaged, it's spicy, there's action, and it's not a novella where there isn't any plot. And you're like, oh, so they're just here to like have fun, spicy time. It actually has substance and purpose, and I loved this one. And now, her new book, I can't even say it because I love the title. I got abducted by aliens and now I'm trapped in a rom-com. Her titles are so fun. Oh my god. But basically, I also did the audio. No, I lied. I lied to you, I'm sorry. I e-read this and I had so much fun. It's kind of a twist on The Wizard of Oz in a way. It's giving abducted, as you can tell in the title. It's giving like a little white shoes. It's great. It has everything. It has the plot. It has action. It has some really fun, spicy moments. It's actually hilarious, and there's like multiple moments where I cackled reading this. And yeah, I honestly cannot recommend it enough. If you're looking for something on the shorter side, and again, don't want to be intimidated by like a huge long series or anything like that, I would highly recommend checking into Kimberly's work. It's amazing. And my other queen, when it comes to monster romance, it's giving aliens, would be Ruby Dixon. I can't not talk about Ruby Dixon because I feel like we've all been in a phase, and if you haven't, you should get in a phase where we read one Ruby Dixon book, i.e. the Ice Planet Barbarian series. We read the first book and then we immediately binge it and end up on book 12. I I want to say maybe like 2 years ago, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna read the Ice Planet Barbarian series because it did get picked up by Berkeley, and I believe they had them at my local library, but I ended up doing the ebook of it. And if you don't know, the series kind of surrounds all of these women end up getting abducted. This is a monster romance, by the way. I think I said that, but just to let you know, if you're not interested, that's totally okay. It's not for everybody, but don't you want to have a little fun? Like, what if we had a little fun? But anyway, I digress. So it's this group of women that get abducted. These aliens are like on this ship. They end up taking over the ship and it crashes onto this like really cold, desolate planet. Or at least they think. So they crash on this planet. Georgie, who's our main character in the first book, again, this is not spoilers, this is just to get you in the mood. She decides that, you know what, I'm gonna go out and try to find us food. Like, we can't stay here because they're gonna come back for us. And so they end up naming the planet not Hoth, based off of Star Wars. It's frozen, it's desolate, and she comes upon this big, tall, blue alien named Vectel. And things happen. It's fun. Again, there's like so many. Actually, I want to look up how many books are in this series because they're short, they're really fun and spicy, and there's actually plot and meaning behind everything she does. So it may only be, you know, like 200 pages, but the world building in this is actually fantastic. And it's truly such a good time. If you're in the mood for something along those lines and you're wanting to get into monster romance, some fantasy aspects, highly recommend that. There is a total of, let me see, 22 books. Yes, 22 books. So just think, if you're ever like, I don't know what to read, there's 22 Ruby Dixon Ice Planet Barbarian books that you could pick up to have a fun, silly little time. So good. Now, if you're wanting to delve into a dark romance, I'm not a big dark romance fan, but that's just me. Slay for those who love dark romance. I love you, I respect you, and I appreciate you. This is as dark as I will get personally. It's Butcher and Blackbird by Brynne Weaver. Now, check your trigger warnings if you're gonna read this. Just be prepared because this book, it's one of a trilogy. This is the first book in the series. This book has to deal with serial unalivers, unaliving serial unalivers. Again, a fun, different, new concept that I had not read of prior to reading this. This definitely shook up the like normal contemporary romance books that I had been reading. This book is very funny. Like, Brynne's writing, just with the banter that Sloane and Rowan have, it's amazing. It's gory, so just know that going in. Again, please look at the trigger warnings. If you are a little squeamish, just beware. They go into detail. It's not crazy, but it is in detail because, again, the premise, the concept. But I had a really fun time reading this. Very interesting. It's giving friends to lovers, but there's always been kind of a tension between them, and I just had a great time. I have not read the other two yet. I don't know if I will because, again, this was kind of a lot for me when it comes to the gore aspects. It was a lot, but it wasn't bad. Like, the dark romance girlies are gonna be like, oh, that's literally nothing. And that's okay, and that's fine. We all have different, like, thresholds and stuff like that, but really fun, interesting concept, and a good time. Now onto my favorites, my contemporary romances. They're the best. I love them. Okay, so this first one holds a very special place in my heart. It was the second book that I had listened to on audio ever, but the first audiobook that I had listened to that I had not read prior. So a book that was new to me, and I was like, you know what, this seems like a really interesting premise, why not? It is Well Met by Jen DeLuca. I love it. So, Well Met, the reason why I put it in this video is because these two have to fake date at a Renaissance festival. So basically, we're following the main character, Emily, who is coming back to her small town in Maryland to help take care of her sister and her niece. Her sister just got into an accident. And so Emily's like, yeah, sure, I'll come back and help, you know, why not? The town is known for their Renaissance festival every summer. And so a lot of the kids in the high school, including her niece, usually work the Renaissance for either school credits or just for fun. Everyone kind of does it over the summer. So she's like about to drop her niece off at this interest meeting, and they're like, oh, like, didn't they tell you she needs to have like a guardian with her? Obviously, like, not with her 24/7, but she needs somebody to sign up with her. So she's like, oh, like, they didn't tell me that, but okay. So what's fun about these two, Emily becomes kind of like a barmaid, a barkeep, and Simon is the English teacher. They have kind of like a rough first meeting, and of course they're like, not hate you, but like, you kind of suck. Like, she's not a fan. Simon plays like a pirate captain in this Renaissance festival that they do every single year. And so they're finally at the Renaissance festival, and then Simon comes up to her, and basically they end up kind of fake dating as their Renaissance characters the entire summer. It's just really fun. I was just like, this premise is just so different. I had a joy of a time reading. Listening was great. I've obviously like physically read it as well, but really just a fun time. This whole most of the series I recommend. I will say skip the second one. I'm telling you, skip it. I think the first and the third are my favorites so far. I think there's one more book to be had, which is very exciting, but definitely skip the second one. It was like night and day for me. It was so sad. Like, this was such a high, and then the second one happened, and I was like, what happened? I was like, what? How did she write the same two books? Anyway, I digress. So fantastic. Such a fun time. You have to read this one. The Romance Book Club. Dang, I'm getting all of the like first book in a series. Maybe I'm just telling you that you need to read more series this year. Who knows? The Romance Book Club, I read very early on. I feel like in my reintroducing bookish journey. I loved this book. I binged this book in one setting, did not leave my chair, and read the entire thing. I fully had a blast. So if you don't know about this book, The Romance Book Club by Lyssa Kay Adams, basically we follow our lead character, Gavin, who is a player on a Nashville baseball team. And he has a wife and he has a set of twin girls. So we open up on Gavin and his wife, and they've been struggling for a while. He finds out that while they're having some fun, spicy time, that she has been faking their entire relationship. And so, of course, he gets hurt about it, which we just need to communicate. That's the goal. But I digress. He gets hurt about it, and they end up fighting and kind of separating. And so he realizes, obviously, she's the love of his life. And he wants to get back the spark. He wants to understand where he went wrong. He wants to mend the relationship. He wants to have the relationship grow and really get an understanding of who she is and her emotions and why everything kind of fell apart. And so he gets invited to this book club of all these higher up men on sports teams who own bars, whatever, things like that, country music stars who read romance books to improve their love life. And it's just so fun. There's kind of like found family aspects. They're all like clueless because, again, they're men. And it's very pure. It's very out of a good place in their heart and how they're wanting to really prioritize the women in their lives. And so they end up going with, you can kind of see it in the back pocket, they end up going with a historical romance. Things happen, it's great, it's a whole series, it's a really fun time. I loved it. So if you're in the mood for marriage in crisis, kind of second chance romancy vibes, highly recommend this one. It's a great time. And again, it's very bingeable, very funny, good vibes. The Dead Romantics. I mean, give me anything that Ashley Poston writes and I will read it. Now, this one, I will say, is probably out of this whole group, other than Butcher and Blackbird, you know of this book, you know, or you know of the author at least from The 7-Year Slip, aka one of my favorite books ever. I could have also put that on the list, but I wanted to stick with The Dead Romantics solely because we're dealing with ghosts. With a silly little ghost. So if you haven't read Ashley's work before, Ashley writes a lot of contemporary romance mixed with magical realism. So if you don't know what magical realism is, it's basically kind of living in the day, but with magical elements within. Again, like our male main character is a ghost. The 7-Year Slip, it has to do with like an apartment that is like semi in the past and the future at the same time. Things like that. This is another book that I read in one sitting. It really impacted me and I can't say enough about this. So basically the story follows Florence. She's a ghostwriter for a famous romance author and she ends up getting this new editor named Benji. We love Benji. He's the best. I love him. Anyway, Benji, they kind of have like kind of a rough first meeting. And then they end up meeting again later in the night, and she ends up getting a phone call that she does not want to hear, which is the fact that her father has passed away. So she has to go back home. Basically, we find out, and again, this is no spoilers, we find out that Florence can see ghosts. And growing up, she was kind of seen as the outcast because she could see these ghosts and she would help them kind of with their final wishes before they move on to the end, if that makes sense. So they're kind of like stuck in this limbo-esque period. So she would always kind of help them with that. And basically what ends up happening is she opens the door, the doorbell goes off, and she opens the door and Benji is standing there. But it's not Benji, it's Ghost Benji. Benji's a ghost. Yeah. This book is great. The one thing, again, that she thrives at is her grief representation. She is very, very good at not making the story too heavy, but making it really impactful and really relatable to people who have experienced that type of loss before and people who can imagine how much that loss would hurt in the future, you know. And also her magical realism is just off the chains. It's so much fun, it's so different. It really is a fast read because you're invested, you want to know what happens, and it's just fun. Morgan, you don't shut up about the favorites. Morgan, you've talked about this so many times and I'm gonna talk about it again. Oh. I love this book. This book is really fun and different. It's basically a Wuthering Heights retelling. I haven't read it in a while, so I don't know how accurate that is, but I have had friends who have read it recently that have told me yes. Basically, it's a Wuthering Heights retelling. They are pairs, ice skaters, and just the drama in this book is insane. The really fun thing about this book and why some people are comparing it to Daisy Jones and the Six is that because it has that interview aspect with like a grouping of people who have grown up, competed with, judged these two skaters, Kat and Heath. It is a wild ride. Again, the drama is crazy. Highly, highly, highly recommend you do the audiobook for this one because it just really elevates the reading experience. It's a full cast, which we love to see. We love to see it. So it really elevates that. And the drama is insane. Like the drama really, I would say, is the thing that keeps you hooked on this one. Yeah, it's basically just an ice skating pair duo who keep falling and falling out of each other. I would say this is definitely more fiction. Go into it knowing it's not a romance. Obviously there's romance elements, but it's just great. Also, Shonda Rhimes, get on the phone. You so need to adapt this. Oh my God, I almost forgot. Okay, so end of last year, I did the audiobook for a book that has an insane premise, Puck and Prejudice, an Avon imprint by Leah Riley. When I tell you, it's giving what if a himbo hockey player got dropped into the Regency era. Basically, what ends up happening in this story, again, no spoilers, we have our male main character who is a hockey player and he's visiting his sister in England. We find out he had cancer, but he's fine. And one night he's driving back from the pub and he runs off the road because he doesn't want to hit a child and goes into the river. And you're like, oh, this is fun. This is insane. Like, is he going to be alive? Yes. And when he wakes up, he's in Regency, England. It's crazy. I wouldn't even say it's a Pride and Prejudice retelling because I just don't think it gives those vibes because he's not, both characters aren't really a Mr. Darcy type, but it's truly a wild time. She's friends with Jane Austen and she's also a writer. So it's giving historical romance with a hockey twist. I don't know. It was different. It was fun. It was just a hee hee ha ha. Was it the best book I've ever read? No, it wasn't. And honestly, if I thought about it, I'd probably knock it down a couple like point somethings star-wise. But it was fun. And I was giggling. And I was just like, this premise is insane. Take that what you will. If you want a hockey romance that's giving Pride and Prejudice, kind of, it's giving historical romance, go for it. For now, until I think of more, those are the books that I really strongly suggest you read that have very differing and different premises from your average contemporary romance. I hope you like this video. Please like and subscribe and comment. Comment if you've read any of these. Comment book recommendations. I would love to read books that you absolutely love that have different premises, or just books in general. And I will see you in the next one. Bye!